to another episode of With Sonar. It's Wednesday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, just right for just before the end of the day here. You take a nice little break here. Luke and Kyle are here again to discuss a fantastic episode. We've got a lot to discuss here. We're going to be looking at earnings reports from Knight-Swift here in a minute. We've got international container crisis. We're going to be looking at new Class 8 truck orders, and are they going to make it in time for the summer rush event. And of course, in just a little bit, stay tuned. We will have a special guest on, Chris Seeds, here shortly. But in the meantime, Kyle.
Hump day.
Hump day. Yeah, that's right. My goodness.
What a good day. Well, it's Wednesday, so I'm super there. But there's just, I'm looking on LinkedIn. I'm seeing everyone that's commenting, our own data. Even, you got Henry, you got everyone, Zach Strickland, you got everyone talking about so many different things. We got economic crisis potentially. We got container issues. We got imports that are continuing to surge. We got demand on the trucking side.
We've got my hair issue right here.
Luke has yet to figure out what a comb is like. So don't worry, guys. If you think his hair is bad now, you should see it when he's on his demos. So don't worry.
This is like Luke trying to look nice for a change. And so that'll just tell you what I'm like when I'm not, on FreightWaves TV.
This just shows you all, for everyone that knows us here at FreightWaves, you put a quarter zip on, it's the new business cash. Yeah. That's all you need is a quarter zip. And FreightWaves loves quarter zips.
Big fan.
No, I'm super excited. We got a lot to talk about. Yeah. But to start off, let's start with containers. Containers. So Hapag-Lloyd just put in a massive order.
Oh, those types of containers.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm not talking about Tupperware.
Okay. I'm talking about
TEUs, 20-foot equivalent containers. Hapag-Lloyd has just ordered 150,000 TEUs in efforts to combat this slow turn times. And it cost about $550 million in order to do this.
It's a nice chunk of change.
Massive. And it's needed.
Yes.
We were just talking about containers are the new gold. It's hard to figure. We're having issues with supply. There's already, on the ocean front, there's already only so many carriers as it is.
Right.
So you're having a lot of different issues. I was actually talking to a prospect today who's a shipper out of Canada who does a lot of importing from China into Vancouver, and he was telling me that one of his other lanes, not just from China but from Malaysia, was having like near 60-day transit times coming to Vancouver, just because they were just bouncing around other ports that have high demand and high dollar amounts. Okay. And I think Henry was talking earlier about, a lot of vessels are kind of avoiding the United States because the money isn't exporting. There's more demand coming into the United States, and you get that dollar amount, just like the trucking. We talked about OTRI, and it's the same thing with the ocean carriers. They are looking for areas to be more profitable, and that's how they're doing it.
Yeah, and we've been seeing this because the price of those containers has been going up higher and higher, right? And we've looked at that before. 4x in a one-year time frame.
Freightos Baltic Index, about 8 months ago, was about just over $1,000 from China going east to the North America. So that is the average of all of those Chinese ports.
Like could be Hangzhou to LA.
Yeah, Shenzhen, you got Shanghai, you got all these different ports.
Yep. Average all those together, I think it was around $1,200.
Yeah.
US dollars.
About 3 weeks ago, it capped out at over $5,000, which is just, it's settled down a little bit. It's right at about 4,800, but just insane.
Right. And that's just the Freightos Baltics index, right? Like if you're a shipper, you're not paying that price. You're talking like, because you got to go through your forwarder, right? Then they're working with, a lot of, like maybe they're working with an MVOCC who's working directly with the shipping lines. Yep. You could be paying $15,000 potentially for an actual container by the time it comes back to you.
Oh, you want that container moved like this week?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just an accessorial charge is what we call that.
It costs you a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyways, so a lot of crazy things going on there. So hopefully we'll see that come through. And that's actually interesting because in a little bit we're going to look at the Class 8 truck orders. So kind of in the similar line there, people are buying new capacity, just like Hapag-Lloyd is buying some more containers capacity. So we're going to look at the truck orders there in a minute. Before we get there, though, something that's interesting, and I think a lot of folks have been expecting this to happen, is now that we're starting to see a full year over year from 2020 to 2021. So really when the freight market kind of hit that 2020 volatility in that volatility in 2020, I think around March of 2020 is when it really hit.
Yep.
A lot of carriers have seen impacts on their bottom line. And we've got some really good insights here. Knight-Swift, obviously, they reported their earnings just recently. And I'm sure it's not much of a surprise they had a killer earnings report, but to how much, I think this is a really good tale to show. So for reference, they reported earnings of 83 cents per share, okay? Now you're kind of wondering, okay, 83 cents per share, that's their profit per share. What does that actually mean? Well, to give you a reference point, all right, that's 39 cents higher than where they were in Q1 of 2020.
Right.
All right. So quarter over quarter. So Q1 of 2021, they were 39 cents higher. So more than a 50% increase in profit, or right about a 50% increase year over year in earnings, which is unbelievable. For the carriers out there, they were operating at, I believe, an 84% operating ratio, which is very high, well above the average. I think this time last year, most carriers were operating around a 98% operating ratio on the dry van side, so extremely high.
Yeah, that's great. And even, their stock price, it was low 40s and this time last year, and now it's upwards. It kind of peaked a few days ago above 50, back down a little bit to about 48, but trending up and to the right, which is always a great direction you want to be in. So absolutely.
So a lot of crazy things there, and I think we'll probably continue to see that trend, and we may even see those earnings reports go even higher as the higher contract rates finally start to go into the mix. We've seen that happening. Obviously, spot rates have been very high for a while, and they're continuing to run parabolic, as we like to say, as our fancy buzzword here on WithSONAR.
What a word to drop on the week that Dogecoin.
I know.
Just had to
slip that one in a little bit.
Oh God! So everyone who doesn't know, Luke's he's a big believer in the cryptocurrency. What is your thoughts? I've heard a couple different perceptions of like how this is just making fun of crypto. Crypto is this way of the future and how people are supposed to be buying, and it's new currencies and it's disrupting the market. Blockchain, Dogecoin comes in as a joke and says royal middle finger,
So I've been investing in crypto for a number of years now. Okay, I've been through various high cycles of 2017. I've been through low cycles. We're kind of back at a high cycle now. It goes ups and downs. And this is just one dummy's opinion here, okay? That's all it's going to be. I'm not going to give you any specifics. Don't do anything based on what I tell you right here. But my opinion on Dogecoin is, it was created, I believe, in 2015 as a joke. They were just kind of, messing around when crypto was beginning to gain steam. Obviously, it had been around for a number of years before then, but not a whole lot going on in the crypto space apart from a couple of the major coins there: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, a few others. And it doesn't really do anything until TikTok. A lot of folks, it started to gain steam on TikTok. People just invest in it, and then Elon Musk got a hold of it. My thing is this: it's a meme, and like GameStop, we'll compare it to that. We saw a massive rush in GameStop, and GameStop is definitely off of its high. I believe about more than 50% down from its high during that little short pump that happened at the beginning of the year. Whatever. That's not even an official term there. But I'm making it one. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Dogecoin do the same thing. Could it reach $1 like some people say? Maybe. I have no idea, nor does anybody else. But eventually the party will probably end for that coin, and others that actually have more legitimate use in the world will probably stay. Now, I could be completely wrong. I've been wrong on many things before, and I'll be wrong on many things to come, but that's just my personal opinion. From somebody that's been in the space for a few years now. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. You're getting me distracted, okay?
This isn't with Bitcoin.
This isn't with Bitcoin or with Dogecoin or with Elon Musk, although that would be very fun.
That would be a great show.
That might need to be a spinoff here. Let us know in the comments below. But no, we've got a very special guest here joining us today. And it's actually our first repeat guest on WithSONAR. Very special indeed. So joining us today to talk about some of the craziness going on in the space of the freight world and maybe what the summer months are going to look like, please welcome Chris Seeds, the sales director at Bridge Logistics. Chris, how are you doing today?
Good, guys. Happy to be a part of the show again. I'm honored. The first repeat. That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to have you. Also, by the way, Kyle and I were talking earlier before the show on how when we invite guests on, some folks are, we like to keep things casual, right? Apart from, I feel like I'm in a black tie event, wearing my quarter zip, but for the most part, it's pretty casual.
Yeah.
And, sometimes we have folks like, oh, TV, we got to be really formal, really fashion. I love the fact that you're in a hoodie right now. That is absolutely fantastic. And I think we need WithSONAR hoodies.
Well, I'll get on that.
I just took my,
I will 100% do that ASAP.
I just took my tuxedo off 5 minutes ago, or I would be dressed to the nines as well as you guys are, but just took it off.
There you go. Awesome. No, I'm happy to
make it on. Having some technical difficulties here, but your FreightWaves team did a fantastic job on having me switch to my cell phone. So you guys are about this big, but from here, Luke, the hair looks great.
I appreciate that.
That is a lie in its own. We'll just say ignorance is bliss.
But just in case, you know what? I'll get a bridge swag hat in the mail to you, brother. Just in case you.
I appreciate that. I will wear that. And that's 2 weeks in a row now that the FreightWaves team has been
swooped in.
Yeah, swooped in, come to the rescue, and been commemorated on their efforts. So we don't get too crazy. We don't want it to go to their heads, even though it's well deserved.
No, perfect. Well, to start off, Chris, I mean, who would have thought, where me and you came from about a year and a half ago, it feels like, I think, we started this whole Sonar journey and me and you had met. And then now your whole persona on LinkedIn now, I mean, that's just phenomenal. So tell me a little bit about what you've noticed from just putting out that content and how that's developed so far.
Yeah, so we partner with a number of companies, but I think one of the most impactful recently, like you said, over the past year and a half has been FreightWaves and Sonar. That the platform, and I've said this before, and I'll say it many times in the future here, is just it's allowed us to just gain such a different insight, and it helps us really to evaluate. And I say it all the time, and explain that the why behind the what, which is so critical. And it couldn't have been a better time for us to get involved with Sonar and establish this partnership. Over the last, as we all know, year and a half here, things have been crazy, and so you've had a enormous thirst for information and a need for understanding, not only just on the shipper side but on the carrier side, and honestly for us to inform our employees. And it's allowed us to do all those things on a very high level, not just through, what not to miss with Chris and, putting that out, on a weekly or biweekly level, but, being able to have those conversations with customers off camera on a regular basis, being able to have those conversations with carriers, as well as employees, so that they can, be advisors, not just brokers or sales reps, but advise, their prospects and customers about what's going on and why.
Love that, Chris. That's absolutely fantastic. I think you hit the nail on the head there, and that's a massive differentiator, right? I mean, anybody can find a truck, right? At the end of the day, there's not really a whole lot proprietary about somebody finding a truck. Sure, somebody might have better relationships with their carriers or whatnot, or be able to keep their shippers involved with the transits and all that. But to be able to advise, I think that's the next level, right? To be able to take it to that level.
Yeah, Cincinnati is it's a saturated market, and you have to be able to differentiate here in the city with all the great players that are surrounding us. The big guys. They have a lot of fancy tools and techniques that they use, and clearly it's working. They're as big as they are for a certain reason, and that's good for them. But that's not our same strategy and game plan, and we do things differently, and it works for us. And Sonar's been a big piece of that.
That's awesome, Chris. I think so. Just something that's interesting here, and it might be a little bit small on your screen, given that you're on the phone. But we're gonna try to do our best. We're gonna jump in. Kyle brought up something in the markets here, comparing tender rejections, which I know you're very familiar with, to new Class 8 truck orders. And I think if we can, let's just go ahead and throw this up on the screen here for our viewers. So let me explain what you're looking at here. The blue line that you see there, that's over the last year as of this morning. That's the percent of that's the tender rejection percentage over that time period. So we're sitting right there at about almost 26% as of this morning's update. And then we dipped down there in late March around 2.5%. So we've seen a lot of peaks and valleys. And excuse me, this is actually since the beginning of 2018 is there all on the left. I said that over the course of a year, but it's about a year and a half here, or 2.5 years. The green line is new Class 8 truck orders on a monthly basis over the same period of time. So we can see here we peaked out right here in, I guess, what's that, end of November, and we've kind of stayed around this really elevated level around that 39 to 42,000, 45,000 orders range. We haven't seen levels that high since the end of 2018, and then obviously when all that capacity hit the road, that caused tender rejections to drop.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. So this is the reason why we kind of chose this chart. Was it gave you a little bit of that flavor of, you know, we all know what 2018 was, and 2018 was kind of similar to what we're going through right now, which is there was so much demand for freight. You could really pick your price at a certain point. And so what happened? We bought more trucks. Then what happened? We oversupplied the market, super soft, and now we're back to where we were. So just kind of proving that cyclical nature of the transportation industry. Is that kind of how you would represent, or, you know, how you would describe it as well, Chris? Or what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was on that brokerage floor back in 2018, and I saw that shift from 2018 to 2019, and it was night and day. And a lot of it was not, if you look back at the volumes, it wasn't volumes. Volumes were relatively stagnant for both years, but where you saw the huge fluctuation was those rejections, and that's all about supply. And I think a lot of fleet owners understand that, and they were around then too, and they're more hesitant to, place those consistent orders, or maybe they're putting a little bit more emphasis on driver recruiting right now because they know how hard it is to fill those seats. So for me, I think understanding the Class 8 truck order piece is huge. But I mean, you have fleets right now, large fleets with trucks sitting, not being utilized because you can't seat those drivers. And yes, COVID is we see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's more vaccinations going on. People are becoming more comfortable. There's more slowly that shift from services to goods, but you still have an enormous hole in that driver pool. I think I heard a statistic the other day. It was 18 to 20% have left the industry, and anywhere from just aging out, finding different opportunities, government assistance, um, Drug and Alcohol Clearing Act. There's just a number of reasons that carriers have been pulled off the road, and some of them aren't coming back. And while it's good to know where those Class 8 truck orders are, and when they're planning on arriving and hitting the open market, I think the big concern that we need to be talking about is driver recruitment.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, Chris. Right, like anything, right? It's a data point. There's a lot of data to obviously consume.
Yep.
And with this, a lot of new Class 8 truck orders are largely driven by larger fleets. Obviously, small fleets definitely involved in that, but a lot of those larger fleets do impact those numbers quite heavily. But to your point, yeah, absolutely, right? Driver recruitment is tough, especially with wages going up in a lot of areas. There's a lot of government assistance or financing going on, and that does make things difficult. I think eventually, we probably will see some of these new trucks hit the road. Eventually, driver recruitment will probably catch up. The question is that we've all been asking is when, right? And it may not be, hey, it hits here and then we fall off a cliff like we did from 2018 to 2019. I don't think we're going to fall off a cliff, but maybe we'll stair step down slightly a little bit to maybe some sort of median level. When that happens or what that median level is, I'm not sure, but we'll keep looking at the signals.
Right. And so, Chris, one thing that you bring up, and I think it's more of a sentiment piece, and we'll see it, on the advertisements, is, we saw CRST, I think, just promoted that they did a big pay raise with a lot of their drivers. And then we saw things earlier in the year with Schneider. And so as more of these trucking companies, that's just more of confirming what you just said, which is, they're now it's just getting that driver in the seat. And once we see pay raise start to going and those massive bonuses, you're going to see just the same driver. Just, it's not like we got new supply. It's actually the same supply, just going to a different company.
Yeah, and I mean, you gotta look at that operating ratio too, because now you're increasing that operating ratio. There's a number of different factors we can get into that affect that OR. But anytime you're increasing a cost, you're affecting that OR, and that's ultimately going to have to be compensated for somewhere. And I'm sure the companies are trying to absorb a lot of those costs that a lot of the bigger ones, I'm sure, are great at doing. But at the end of the day, the higher that ratio rises, whether it's with pay or insurance or whatever else, it's gonna you're still talking about effect that's going to drive increase or stabilize rates to where they are right now at a very high level.
Yeah, no, it's definitely very interesting. And another piece, and we'll start talking about this a little bit more because we were just talking about the supply side. Now let's think a little bit more about the demand side. You brought up earlier that 2018 was all just under supply. The clearinghouse, we had the ELD mandates, we had a lot of these different factors that were associated with the supply side. And so now we have a demand issue, being that we saw just all of these inventories throughout 2020 just get completely squeezed. And now we're trying to restock all the inventory levels, but we're buying at an all-time high right now. And we can see that in the inbound TEUs. And Luke, I think you might have it up. And so let's put this on our screen. And so Kristen, for the people that are listening in, we're gonna be viewing a chart out of Sonar that is comparing the amount of bookings of TEUs that are going to be coming into the United States in about 14 to 21 days.
That's the blue line.
And that's going to be the blue line. And then the orange line, which is compared to it, is going to be, what is that, our tender rejection or tender volume?
Volume, yeah. Tender volume.
Tender volume. So really just comparing what containers are coming in to the amount of demand for trucks right now. And so we've really just seen that ramp up, and it's continuing to ramp up. And as we go into summertime, which is normally a softer period, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, is that kind of what when you're talking to your reps there? Is that kind of some of the same sentiment you give them?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, every time I pull that chart up, it looks like that inbound ocean TEU volume is getting ready to break a new record. It looks like we're approaching that again. It's when's it going to stop? And I think that these inventory levels play a huge role in that. But you have stimulus check, you have money from consumers that they haven't spent from some haven't spent from the first and second round of stimulus checks, let alone the third we got not too long ago. I mean, if you look at like Bank of America savings data, and which I know you guys do, and the U.S. consumer is sitting on piles of cash, and while the service industry is opening back up, there's still goods that need to be purchased, to support the service industry. When you go to a restaurant and you order food or whatever else, that's still coming from somewhere. That's still a good that needs to be purchased. So I think that until you really open things up on a large scale, you have people, resort back to that service as opposed to good aspect, and you have, an abundance amount of drivers re-enter into the market. You're not going to see those volumes, tick down at a high level. I think that's going to be a gradual decrease. And like I talked about this week on What Not to Miss was, how those volumes are being dispersed across the U.S. Everybody knows everything about Ontario and Los Angeles, and the Ontario market, how the Port of LA and Los Angeles are just have been gangbusters for the last year and a half. But when you look at the diversity you're starting to see to Houston and Charleston and Savannah and a number of other ports that aren't used to seeing these high level of volumes for a very long period of time, you're really going to start seeing a lot of carrier displacement outside of what we've already seen. Probably something you see typical in like a bad storm where drivers leave the market and then it takes weeks for them to reroute. You have an enormous amount of infrastructure built out on the West Coast because those volumes are, we're not used to the insane volumes we've seen over the last year and a half, but we're used to high volume coming out of the Ontario market. We're not used to some of those same volumes that we've been seeing recently come out of that East Coast. So you have years and years and years of an infrastructure being built in order to support that West Coast, that now you're diverting freight to the East Coast, and they just don't have the infrastructure. At least all importers don't have that infrastructure to support the demand.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think what we talked about just before you came on is that also that's not where the money's made for the vessels as well. So they're only going to supply so much capacity to that East Coast, because we all know that with the trade deficit and what you can now charge for that China to East Coast, Freightos Baltic was above 5,000. So, I mean, yeah, they're making
Right.
so much more money on that side. I can totally see some sort of manipulation. I'm not going to say it's rigged. But some sort of manipulation that's going to cause that supply side to then fall down even more on certain areas.
I just want to say to anybody listening, I'm not with this guy. I don't know who he is.
All of a sudden I get whacked over here.
Yeah.
Like, you don't talk about the vessels, all right?
Hey,
but the steamship lines are coming at you. But no, that's awesome. And Chris, thank you so much for jumping on here. And I really love what you're doing with the videos, and it does portray a message that this is actually how the freight industry is looking now. You got to be able to look at multiple different data sets, whether it is from just macro trends to trucking industry to what we're looking at here in Sonar as well. So thank you.
Hey,
Yeah,
Chris,
absolutely.
if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, look us up at bridgelogisticsinc.com or hit me up on LinkedIn. Always on there. So you can catch the latest episode of What Not to Miss with Chris. Just put it out yesterday or the day before. So look that up. A lot of the same content we just talked about now, I'll go over on that. Happy to have more in-depth conversations about that as well.
Awesome. Fantastic. Chris Seeds, everybody, Bridge Logistics, thanks so much for joining us.
What a guy.
What a guy. Also, can we just give another shout out to the FreightWaves media team for like the nice Chattanooga like mirror with the water backdrop here?
Yeah, I noticed that last week. No more WithSONAR as the background.
No more WithSONAR as the background.
No, but this is exactly what you're gonna get if you come to F3.
November 8th through 10.
Yeah, it's gonna be phenomenal. I'm super excited.
A little infomercial though that we just threw.
Yeah.
But no, that's fantastic. Absolutely great. It's gonna be exciting. I know. So Craig, the CEO of FreightWaves, if you're not familiar, Craig Fuller, he said that there is around 12,000, I believe, 12 or 13,000 hotel rooms here in Chattanooga. And he's like, we want to book all of them.
That would be insane. I mean, me coming from a big city, I'm like super excited about this. I'm like, more people, the better. This is going to be awesome. And so, but I'm really interested because Chattanooga, people who live in Chattanooga are like, yeah, it's a big city for a small town.
Yeah, for a small town, Chattanooga is a big city. It does have a larger city vibe for the size of it. It has a lot of amenities for a city its size.
A lot of history.
Mm-hmm.
God, it's one of the top bottlenecks for traffic for the highways. I'm sure.
Freight alley.
Anyone who's listening in, that 75 to 24 is a doozy. But no, I really love talking with Chris, and he really brings that kind of perspective as well because Bridge is not the largest company in the world. No. I mean, they to his point, they are having to compete with all of these other brokerages who do maybe have venture capital backing or was able to just acquire or grow to a point where they're just so huge they have this budget in order to have proprietary technology. So they've had to really do a lot of things, and they're probably one of my best customers that I've had that I personally brought on where they've just had so much success with it.
Yeah. So like no others have had success, what you're saying, none of yours?
Yeah.
All of mine.
All of you.
Every single one.
Every single one. Love it. No, every customer is successful with Sonar. And so next week, I think we'll dive into a little bit more of an educational background of what we can do with Sonar for you guys. Because I know we're always just showing you exactly what happens at the end of it. But next week, I know we want to show you a little bit of the magic, how it actually gets to that screen.
Little of the meat and potatoes. And I think too also some of like the actual tools and features that folks utilize day to day, right? How do you make a decision on pricing? How do you make a decision on forecasting? How do you actually use the forecasting tools? Where do the forecasting tools even come from? And a whole lot more in the suite there. So it's going to be really, really exciting to dive into that. And we've got some really big updates coming out here soon as well. Like we're not done. Like Sonar is never done. It's like, never be satisfied. So there's a lot more stuff coming out soon. Summertime heat. I want to say some things, but I can't spoil the fun. I can't spoil the fun.
No, we're super excited, but
that's right.
Yep.
So anyways, we're excited. Folks, thank you so much for joining us today on With Sonar. We will be here again next Wednesday live, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Tell your friends and everybody, of course. And if you want to learn more about With Sonar, feel free to leave a comment for Kyle or myself below. We will be happy to take you through the process. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next week.